Heyo, folks, welcome to the channel, and hopefully by the time I post this video, today is October 9th, aka
It's Leif Erikson Day! Hinga-dinga-durgan!
And yes, that is a real holiday, by the way, for those who didn't know. And speaking of Leif Erikson, I also felt like today might be a pretty fun opportunity to look at one of my recent builds, that being Lego set number 21343, the Viking Village. This cool set came out in 2023 with a surprising sum of 2,103 pieces containing 4 cool Viking figures, all for the price of $130. Now this set is actually a Target and Lego Ideas collab, which means you could obviously get this set at Target.com or sometimes even stores, as well as of course the Lego store. Which this is a pretty cool set with plenty of cool buildings and features and all that. So why don't we get to looking at all of them one by one, shall we? Now before we get to the first of our builds, I'm actually going to show you a little something. And you heard me right, builds, because actually these 3 sections can be separated, so that way it's not just one build. Yes, 3 sections. However, there's a little flaw with this. You see they're connected by these little pincers. I'm not sure what to call them. I'll just call them claws. Claws, because oftentimes they'd be used for characters with robotic arms. These pieces right here. And let's take this off, for example, and you could probably see the flaws. Yeah, these pieces can easily come off. It's pretty tricky to get them off without taking these out. That's one big flaw of the set that I really don't like. But that's how the parts connect to one another, which is pretty cool. But at the same time, I do feel like maybe it could have been done a little bit better, so that way it's not so much a hassle to disconnect. But anyways, why don't we take a look at the blacksmith over here? Arguably one of my favorite builds of this set. So let's get to it. And here for the first of our sections, we have the Viking Blacksmith. And I gotta say, it's really nicely built. I do love the atmosphere. I mean, it is a little bit small, but I do love the atmosphere with the snow, the rocky trail, as well as the few trees. I do like the trees, even though I kind of hate building trees just because of how convoluted of a technique they can be. Don't get me started on the Winnie the Pooh tree. But I do love this tree right here. It's pretty simple, which that's really good. The simpler the tree, the better, as long as it, of course, looks good. But we're gonna move to the side. You can just see the side here, the back of the building, which the building is pretty much open, as you can see, which you can just see more of that, as well as some moss, which that's real nice, as well as some, well, it's not really obvious. You can see a little bit of like the clear, bluish clear pieces there. In other parts of the set, there's a little bit of waves. Even though they're not really in this part, there are some sections of the set where there's like wave formations, which that's real nice. You also do got this stone. I don't know if it's like a grave or perhaps like just some sort of stone carving, which it looks real nice. And the best part, it's a print, not a sticker. That's awesome. But yeah, this tree, I already said it again, but this tree is really nice. I do love the colors, as well as you can also see those like little pieces right here where my finger's on. It's kind of hard to see, but you could see like I don't know what it's called, but it's like a little action piece that's used for like it's used for the Marvel CMF or the DC CMF or Doc Ock's tentacles in the Daily Bugle, albeit this time in a green color, which it's nice to get more variety. Hopefully they come in a red color soon, but we haven't even gotten to the main part, the blacksmith shop itself, which I do love the openness. I mean, I do kind of wish it was a little bit more closed, but most importantly, I wish it was bigger. But I do love the roof. You can actually take the roof off, you can see. And you can see there's snow detailing and all that. I do love how the formation is. You also got a hammer right here. I'm not sure if it's just like there since it's being held there, or if it's like meant to be like a sort of sign, which that's pretty cool either way. Let's actually get a better look at the interior of the blacksmith shop, which you could see there's a lot of tools and all that. I gotta say that is probably the saddest anvil build right there. You could see. Look, let me actually remove this tree so you can get a better look. You could see like a little barrel full of tools, such as a sword, a rod, a hammer, and a pickaxe. And you also got a little water bucket, and as well as a blank shield and a little candle, as well as one of these Viking helmets. I know that apparently people really like these Viking helmets, which I kind of understand. They're really nicely done. This is a really cool helmet mold, and I do hope we get more of these. I can't help but feel like this could be used for Lord of the Rings sets, especially if they were to do a Minas Tirith, but that's for another video. Let me put the helmet back. You do also get a little bit of a play feature here. You can see this. I imagine that's supposed... If you look over here, you see this like weird little build right here. Let me actually adjust the camera so you can see it better. You can see like this little weird build thing. I'm not sure what it's called. I imagine it's like one of those. I'm having a hard time describing it, but you'd always see it in cartoons. I'm not sure what these are called, but usually it's used to make the fire bigger, which if you push down on it, that's just real cool. Raises the fire up a bit, which I gotta say, using that piece for the smoke on the chimney is pretty cool. I also love the white clip piece, which is, I don't know when the last time we got this piece was. For all I know, this is my first time getting that piece in white. But yeah, there's a whole lot of cool stuff with this build. I do kind of wish the build was a lot bigger. Like, I do feel like maybe the building could have been bigger, so that way there's more armor. And that's another thing. I do feel like maybe they should have added like just a little armor stand. Kind of like that Minecraft armor stand, albeit for Vikings. But yeah, it was a really nice build, and I do feel like maybe the build could have been just a little more bigger, and the same could be said for other parts of this set, but still, I really do like this blacksmith build. It's very hard to go wrong with a blacksmith type of set. Which I do hear there's a rumor that they're gonna make a Ninjago blacksmith set. Which it would be really cool to see them remake Kai's blacksmith shop, but that's a topic for a different video, and I'm trying my best not to go off on irrelevant topics. But yeah, it's a really good build for the set, as well as a really good blacksmith build. Anyways, let's move on to the next section of the set, which I think is a pretty interesting section, so let's take a look at that. Up next, we have the Viking throne room, which you can see this is a really nice exterior. I mean, there's not a whole lot of walking ground. I mean, you do got the ground with some more rock path, as well as the dock, and there's the wave effects that I mentioned in the previous segment, as well as some snow. So that's real nice. You can see from the sides, you can see how it's built. You got that Ninjago samurai helmet part up top on the windows. There's 2 more windows on the other side. And speaking of Ninjago, you do also got like this piece up top here, which was used for like the dragon powered forms for the Ninjago crystallized line. But yeah, you can see the clips that connect both the blacksmith and the outpost side, which, like I said, it is pretty easy for these to come off if you try to take the sides off. But yeah, you can see the back, which does have some more rock formation, as well as the water line, as well as another window, but it's not like the one we previously saw, as well as the ones we're about to see, which you can see there's more of those windows with the Ninjago samurai headpiece, as well as some more snow detailing, which the exterior of the building is really nice. I do love the roof detail. You see we got some golden sausages up top, which it's nice to get sausage pieces in some different colors aside from red. Back up front, you can see we got a cool door here, though I find it interesting how they do the handles, where it's just these clip pieces. Usually there's like some sort of thing to represent a handle. Like I'm imagining this one particular pointed piece. I can't really think of what to call it, but I will show a photo on screen. Usually I would imagine they would be on this clip piece, so that way you'd be able to open the doors like so, which I do find it interesting how the doors are a lot smaller than you'd expect. Usually when you get brick built doors, they'd be pretty bigger, but for what it is, it's alright. You do got some more prints. Yes, prints. Amazing prints. Really good stuff. I mean, I do think these 3 prints may or may not be exclusive. I'm not sure, but I know the wood print is definitely not exclusive. It's been used for plenty of wood pieces, but yeah. Let's get a better look at the rooftop. It's real nice. Which, now that you've seen the outside, why don't we actually take a look at the inside of the throne room itself? You can see the interior is pretty crammed. You would think since the interior would take you would think since the building takes up most of the space of this section, there'd be a lot of interior, but I guess we're wrong in that department. But you can see we got some weapons over here. You got a printed shield, which that's really nice. As well as like a little candle. I imagine it's like one of those candle holders, but you can't really have minifigures holding it. As well as a little cooking fire, which is pretty cool. I do like how it's built with the rocks and such. It's real nice. Looking at the throne itself, you could see that it's got some drapes as well as a chalice next to the throne. You, of course, got that candle I previously mentioned. And you could see we have the throne itself, which is really cleverly built. You can see it uses the new mech fingers for the arms as well as the top, which that's real nice. Like I said, you also got the drapes. I thought this would be removable, which you could remove it, but it's not a very easy removal process. You could end up breaking it. Let's see if we could do it a little bit with success. Oh, we did it. We did it. Yes. Now I can get a better look at the throne itself, which is real nice. Of course, the minifigure could fit on there. Let's actually get one of the figures, just so you can see. Excellent. Look at that. Look at that. Now that that's out of the way, let's actually continue to look. You can see there's like a very tiny table which has a drumstick as well as a chalice in the silver compared to the pearl gold over there, which still, it's nice that we get more of these silver chalices since we're so used to the golden chalices. That's real cool. I do love how the interior is done, but at the same time I feel like this could have been done a lot bigger and better. Like, I feel like it could have been wider so that way there's not only more walking room but also some room to add some more stuff, because I feel like this is a very pitiful table. Like, you could make it a lot bigger and maybe even add more food. Yes! Maybe even modify this little fire a little bit, so that way it's able to hold or even cook something. But regardless, I do like how it's built, even though I feel like there are some flaws. Even though I do feel like the build and some parts could be done better, I do like this building a lot. It's really nice. It's still a really solid throne room build. Maybe there could have been a little more, but still, it's pretty good in my book. But that being said, I think it's time to look at our final section of the set. So let's waste no time and get straight to said section right now. Let's go! Lastly, but surely not least, we have ourselves our last build, the Outpost. I'm going to refer to it as the Outpost, but as you can clearly see, we still got more snow detailing, more stone trail detailing, as well as some more moss, which that's pretty cool. You can see it consists of two towers, one being significantly smaller and the other one being decently sized, but you can obviously see there's a lot more walking room compared to the previous two builds. But in terms of the buildings themselves, they're pretty small, but which we'll get to that. I will say I do find the back of the keg build a little bit of an eyesore, but at the same time I feel like it's not something you'd often see, but maybe that's me. And as you can see, you got like a little bit of a cave build underneath. You can see some more moss detailing, and I'm not sure what that orangey brown stuff is. I'm imagining it's meant to be like, it could be either clay or copper, but I'm not sure. If anyone knows in the comments, please let me know. But you can see more of the detailing on the roof. I do love the use of the mech fingers to help with the roof, which we've previously seen on the throne. Another thing I really like about this tower is like the stone stairs. I think that's just a really cool build. And you can see we got a little line of fish. Though, I find it a little bit odd that there's like no fishing material in the set. Like, there could have been like a fishing rod or just something used where the Vikings could hunt fish. But you do got these beer kegs over here. Wine kegs, whatever. Kegs. We're just going to say kegs. But you can see they got like a little dragon print on them. That's really nice. Looking at the tower, it's very small, as you can obviously see. You can see there's only one spot for a minifigure, which I do kind of wish that was a little bit bigger, but hey, you do got a printed shield as well as a flag, which that's nice and all. You can obviously see there's a bridge which connects the two towers, which I will say the bridge wasn't very enjoyable. I mean, it wasn't super bad, but I just didn't enjoy it compared to previous bridges I've built in the past, but another thing I'd like to point out is that you do got a unique door build. Of course, you got that weird handle, and also you do got the sides which use the Lego Harry Potter wands, which I do find as a weird yet cool technique. The door can obviously open, which it's kind of hard to get your hands and such in there, but that's okay. There's a little secret to that. If you go to the side, you can push this down. Let me readjust the camera so you can get a better look. Whoosh. And you can get a better access to the interior. You can see the ladder as well as the top of the building, which leads to the bridge. But let's look at the wall first. There's not much on the top and a little bit more on the bottom. Another one of those flat tables. One having what I imagine would be bread as well as a candle Only reason why I think this is bread is because this uses the same piece that would be used for Minecraft bread nowadays. Back then, Lego Minecraft bread just used the regular bread build, but inside you get another interesting sight. It's hard to see, but you could see there's a little storage thing containing cherries, as well as a pumpkin, which uses a darker shade of orange compared to the previous pumpkins, which I find really interesting. Yeah, cool nonetheless. Of course, you got a really nice roof build. The roofs in the set have been really good, and you can't really go wrong with these Viking roofs, but yeah. Yeah, this is a really cool outpost build. Much like the previous builds, I do kind of wish it was a little bit bigger. Or at least the two towers. I do wish they were a little bit bigger, so that way you would be able to fit more stuff. That way there would be a little bit more space in the building and such. But other than that, this is a pretty good build. Before we move on, I'd like to get a quick look over at the top of the tower, which leads to the bridge. You can see there's more of those prints with the wood as well as the little dragon symbols. That's really cool. Again, the only way you could really stand a minifigure there is on top of the base of the ladder. Like, not the ladder itself, but like the piece that holds the ladder. As well as the bridge, of course. But anyways, back to what I was saying. This is a really cool outpost build. And whilst it is pretty cool, I just do wish the builds, like the towers, were a little bit bigger. Other than that, this is a pretty cool build. Now, before we look at the minifigures, let's actually take a look at the set with all three parts combined before we get to the minifigures. So let's get to that right now. And here we are again, the Viking Village as a whole once more. Once you have all the parts connected, they just really fit well, you see. It just looks really nice when you got all three of them connected. Like, you can see that each of the trails just perfectly aligning with one another, which that's just really nice. My only complaint with the set as a whole is I do feel like there could have been some more space in some parts. Like, I do feel like there could have been a little bit more space between the main throne room as well as the watchtower. Because we're going to look back at it and I'll talk about it again, but continuing to look at the set. Let's make sure we can look at that. Because if you could look, you could see there's like not a whole lot of space. I mean, you could still have a minifigure going up the stairs, but it's still pretty tight over here. Compared to over here, there's a lot more space between the throne room as well as the blacksmith. Another thing is, I just feel like there could have been like more with it. Like, don't get me wrong, this is enough. But I feel like there just could have been a little bit more with it. Like, there could have been like some more side builds and a little bit more space and more minifigures, even though the minifigures in the set are really good. Another thing is, I find it a little bit odd how there's no boats. Like, usually Vikings are often paired with boats and such, but maybe that's just the way I'm thinking. But I just can't help but feel like maybe the set could have had a boat. At the very least, one boat. Heck, a small boat. I would have been fine with just a small boat. But aside from that, this is a pretty solid set. This is a pretty good build. I just think when you combine all three sections together, it just makes an even better set. But do you know what else makes the set even better? Those minifigures. I think it's time we look at those minifigures. So let's take a look at those minifigures right now. Starting off, we're going to start off with the first and the last minifigure of the set. The Viking Blacksmith as well as the Viking Shield Maiden. Well, that's what Brickset calls her. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to refer to them as the Viking Warrior. Which, both of them are really nice minifigures. I gotta say, probably my favorite figure of the set as a whole has to be the Viking Blacksmith. I do love the hairpiece, which this is my first time getting this hairpiece. Which I do believe this hairpiece was first introduced in the Lego Friends line with that one mini doll minifigure. And the hairpiece for this figure was first introduced in black for Makari, or whatever their name was, for the Lego Eternals line. For accessories, the Viking Blacksmith has a paintbrush, which is really nice. I don't get those often, as well as a printed hammer piece. That is awesome. Like, it's not often you get hammer pieces that are unique, let alone printed. As for the Viking Warrior, she has a simple axe, as well as a printed shield, which has blue and dark red printing. Cool stuff. They do got some really nice torsos, which either show their overalls or armor in their respective cases. You can see that the Viking Blacksmith has a dark red and black torso, whereas the Warrior does have a more armory torso. Which, I do like the Viking Warrior's torso, because it kind of reminds me of like the old dwarves from the Lego Castle line. If you go to the back, you can see they both got some arm printing, which I gotta say, I really love the little symbol on the back of the blacksmith's torso. That's just really awesome, and you can see there's more of that printing for the warrior. And if you take off their hair pieces, you can see that only the Viking warrior has an alternate expression, and she's the only minifigure in the set as a whole who has an alternate expression, whereas their alternative expression has them with a little wink, which that's pretty cool. Another thing I really like is the little headband print on the head of the Viking blacksmith, which is really cool. It kind of reminds me of that one minifigure from the, funny enough, the one night in the Lego Ideas blacksmith shop set. Coincidence? I think not. But yeah, these are some really cool minifigures, and I'm glad that they were done in this set, and I'm glad that they were done really well. I just like these figures a lot, especially the blacksmith. Anyways, that being said, let's move on to our next two figures. For our last two minifigures, we have both the Viking Archer as well as the Viking Chieftain? Well, that's what they call it on Brickset. But for the sake of this video, I'm just going to call them the Viking Lord, because I feel like that's a lot more easier to say and remember. But these are some really nice minifigures. I do love their torsos and all that. You could also see the Viking Lord has some printing on their legs, which you could see there's some silverish printing, which that's really cool. For accessories, he's got the yellow and green shield, which that's really awesome. His face is pretty basic. I'm pretty sure this has been reused for Santa plenty of times. I do also love the armor pads, even though that's been used several times too. He's also got a longsword, which we've gotten plenty of those, but it's nice to get more. And another thing I like about both these figures is the Viking helmets. It's nice to get more of these too. So much to get, that's so awesome. But we haven't been given the Archer attention, which he looks really good too. I do love the printing, and the torso just kind of reminds me of that. I think it was Dwalin from the Hobbit line, but that's just really nice. He's also got some silverish printing on his legs, which that's really awesome. Turning to the back, you can see, like I said before, you can see they've obviously got no alternative expression, but let's take the Archer's quiver off so that way we get a better look at the fur on the back. Ooh! They've got like an elk printing on the back. That's awesome. I didn't even notice that until now. That's just like really cool. You can see more of the back of the Lord, which is really nice. You can see more of his green cloth. That's really cool. Another thing I really like is, actually let me take the helmets off so you get a better look at their faces, which I do really love the war paint or whatever on the Viking Archer, which that's just really cool. Both figures are just really cool. I just love the detailing on their torsos and all that. But yeah, the minifigures are just really helping the set out, as well as you do got some different horns, one being more curved and the other one's being more pointed and straightish, albeit curved, but which is really cool. But at the same time, I do kind of wish we got some more Viking minifigures, whether it be a male or a female. I just do wish we got more Viking minifigures, more figures with this helmet. Maybe even a different color, whether it be light silver or even a bronze coloring. That would be really cool. But aside from that, both of these figures are really good. The previous figures were good too, but altogether these figures are just really, really awesome, and they just help make the set even better. That being said, I think it's time we take one last look at their set, so why don't we get to the outro, shall we? Seeing as if I've said most of my thoughts during the whole segment with all three sections combined, I'm going to try my best not to reiterate all that I said. But anyways, I think this is a really cool idea set, as well as a really cool Viking set. I love the builds. I just love the atmosphere with all the snow and all the rocks and the moss and all that, as well as the docks. And I also love the buildings. But at the same time, I feel like the buildings and such could have been a lot bigger and wider. As well as the whole terrain as a whole. I do feel like maybe it could have been bigger. And I do feel like maybe there could have been like some more builds. As well as, I do feel like maybe there could have been some more builds and more features. As well as maybe a few more minifigures. At least 1 to 2. But aside from that, would I recommend this set? Yeah, I would. Although I will say get it for a more reasonable price than $130. This is a pretty big set, which it's interesting because this set feels like it both is 2,000 pieces, but at the same time it also doesn't feel like 2,000 pieces. I don't know, it's a little bit weird, but still. This is just a really satisfying set, and I just had a good time building this set, and I just really love this set, and I do hope we get more Viking-based sets, even if they're not ideas-based sets. But yeah, really cool set. Anyways, that being said, that'll be all for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed this little video. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment all that, because that helps. And I will see you in the next one. Have a good one!